Hello, this is the third demo of the zells prototype number 8. In the last demo, I showed how simple signals can be sent directly to zells. In this demo, I want to show how to compose them into structured messages and have these dispatched dynamically to different receivers. So it's still a very basic use case that doesn't really do anything useful, but it shows the underlying model. As a quick recap, the basic unit is called a zell. It is similar to actors in that it runs in its own process and it can receive messages, called signals. The difference is that signals don't have to define a receiver and can be received concurrently. For example, a zell can receive a simple text string. In order to see this received signal, we can attach something called a scope to it. In this case, a transcript scope. The transcript scope will ask the zell to tell it about each received signal and will print it to the transcript. So scope lets you see inside and manipulate a zell. It's basically an adapter pattern. Let's do a slightly more interesting example with a text zell. A text zell contains a value which is currently just an empty string. If we send it a message like before, just a string, nothing will happen, but we can see that signal if we attach the transcript scope to it. In order to change the value, we need to send it a structured signal, a message, consisting of a body which contains an instruction to set its value to foo. When we send this, the value is set to foo, and here you can see the received signal, which is the structure. Now we can do this easier using a text scope. Which we attach to that zell, and with the text scope we can set the value more easily, and the text scope translates our intent to a message that the text zell can understand. So far, we did everything in Smalltalk with text input, but zells can also be interacted with graphically. So let's open the zell and put it over here, and let's also open the text scope and put it over here. With this text scope we can easily change the value to whatever we want, and we can also see the current value. So we don't need that anymore. We can also translate the received signals into a graphical representation using a listener scope. And we attach it to the zell, and now whenever we change the value we can see the received signals over here. To see what these messages contain, we can take one. Let's make some more room. Put that over here. So we can take one of these received messages and attach a container scope to it to see what is inside. So this shows that this message contains another container named body, so we can look into that using another container scope, and we see the text with the value bar and the name set. We can now edit this value to anything we want and send it to our text zell over here using an inbox scope. The inbox scope will just send everything it is dropped into it to the zell it's attached to. So we can drop this zell and have the value change to whatever we want. So this is how you can send a structure message directly to a zell. Now let's see how we can send messages to zells that we don't have direct access to. For example, I don't think we need that anymore. For example, let's say that this Munich value is the address of a person in our phone book. So let's name this cell address with a name scope. And we just name it address. And a person also has a number, so let's make a second one, name that number, and set the value to a number. These two properties now live in a container cell, which has the name of the person, so let's name it Alice. And we can use another container scope to move these two cells into the Alice container. Now let's make another person, call this one Bob, and put both of them into a container cell which is the address book, so we name it book. And we put Alice and Bob into the address book, like this. Now let's say I want to change the properties of either Alice or Bob, or both. So let's look at them with container scopes. And let's say I want to change the address. Let's say they move from Munich to Berlin, so I want to change the address to Berlin. And I want to do that by sending messages to the address book. But just sending this message won't do anything, because the book doesn't know what to do with it. In order to send it to the address, we need to specify the receiver. So we add another text cell to the message, name it 2, and set its value to address. So now when we send it to the book, the addresses of both Alice and Bob change, because the book forwards the message to both, which forwards the message to both its properties. And since the message of each property matches with the receiver here, they both think the message is for them. If we want to change only one value, we need to be more specific with our receiver. So let's say we want to change only Alice's number to 345. If we send this message now, only Alice's number is changed to 345. This concludes this demo, number 3. It showed how to compose and send messages to specific cells. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more.